Hello everyone, I hope you guys are all having a great day so far. So today we are building a huge modern family home in Del Sol Valley on the 64 by 64 lot. As I've been building on quite small lots recently. I say small, but it's kind of like 50 by 50 and 50 by 40s. I just wanted to like get back into creating these huge modern mansions again, and today we're going with like a very Scandinavian style home. Although it kind of just looks like a bit like a farmhouse, it is a lot more like minimalistic looking, in the sense that like the exterior is like very like clean and simple looking, as you guys will see throughout the video as I'm furnishing and creating this build. But yeah, by no means this home is not small at all. It's a relatively huge home. Although I didn't make it so big in the sense that like there's so many rooms, I feel like it's an appropriate size and is like livable in, if that makes sense. I hope you guys will be able to like see that as you guys are watching the build. But yeah, so far like we're just creating the exterior, and you can see like already it looks huge, but yeah, like you will see it does change quite a bit as we play around with like the walls and stuff like that. I do end up like changing like a lot of like the sizes and the rooms just to like make it look perfect and stuff. It is a two-story huge home in Del Sol Valley, like I mentioned, and I went with like a very minimalistic and simple style, as that is kind of like what I like building. And we incorporate a lot of like minimalistic, simple designs as well as like textures. And honestly, despite the home being like quite minimalistic, I did incorporate like a lot of materials. So you would see a lot of like concrete, a lot of wood paneling, as well as a lot of stone. On the exterior, we do have like a bunch of different like textures and stuff. I just feel like it makes the house look a bit more interesting and it makes it stand out a little bit more. And you can see like the home has like a very intricate detail to it, in the sense that like the exterior is like very nice, and yeah, it's not just like a same old like rectangular shape that's like, you know, like fully like flat, if that makes sense. It has like a lot of like peaked roofs and like edges that like poke out and stuff, which I feel like make these homes look like very interesting and appealing to look at, which is honestly like my purpose when I'm building in The Sims. Like I love the way the exterior turns out, especially like with like using what is with the game instead of like incorporating custom content. I feel like it's really cool that you can create these unique looking exteriors just with like the pack in the game. But yeah, I really do hope you guys like how this build turns out, as I'm kind of proud of it. As I don't know, it just looks quite unique in comparison to like what I usually build, although it's like literally like the same thing in the sense that like the style and like the design, in the sense that like there's like a lot of like poked out like edges and like a lot of peaked roofs. I still feel like this build looks relatively unique to like what I usually create, and you guys will see that evolve, and like, you know, you guys will see how it like actually does look a bit different from my old builds. If you guys are relatively like new on the channel, I do create a bunch of like modern mansions and homes, especially like farmhouses recently. I do have quite a few on the channel. They kind of have like the same designs as this build that I'm building right now, but honestly this one just turned out like amazing. Like I'm really happy with this one. I don't know, I also use like a bunch of like different materials. You like floorings that I don't usually use, especially like some pebble one that you will see throughout this entire home. I used it like in the at the front of the home as well as at the back. I just felt like it was a very cool like flooring to use, because I don't really use that in my builds. And yeah, you would just see like how I place it like very simply, and like I don't know, it just made the house look a bit more sophisticated and like clean, as there wasn't a lot of grass or dirt patches. It was kind of the plants were coming out of the pebbles, which looked kind of cool. I would have loved if that flooring came in like different colors as well, such as like a gray pebbles or like white pebbles. I don't know, I feel like that wouldn't have been too difficult to create, but I'm sure it would have been amazing if we had like different colors with it as well. I feel like the black also stands out really well with this home, as like this home does incorporate a lot of like light features and stuff. So yeah, I just feel like those black pebbles that were scattered across the entire house really stood out and like made the house pop a bit more, as there was a lot more contrast and stuff. But yeah, as you can see, like so far we incorporated already like a bunch of different textures and stuff throughout the entire home. Yeah, and I just really like the colors that I picked. I feel like they really complement each other really well, as well as like some of like the black concrete parts that stand out quite a lot actually in this build. And I don't know, it just looks like really nice next to like the wood paneling on the walls for the exterior. I also really like the way the peaked roofs look on this build, as I do focus on like changing how it looks so that it's not like too pointy, but it's not like completely flat. And I did also use like different medians of roofs, so we have like pitched roofs as well as like flat roofing towards the back of the home. I didn't know if this flat roofing was gonna work for the back of the home, but it eventually ended up working out as I added like a bunch of like roof trims, small details here and there that really just make the home come together. Yeah, I also use a bunch of different like window types as well to create this home. So you'll see a bunch that come from a few different packs, which kind of sucks because I did have to use like a few to create this home. But overall, I just feel like it's justifiable with how great it turned out in my opinion. But yeah, like as you guys can see already, like I just feel like the home looks so nice and like I don't know, it just looks very well sophisticated and just really like the colors and stuff. I did also take inspiration from online pictures while building this home, as inspiration is always great when you're building in The Sims. Like I just feel like you can make a lot of unique stuff, and obviously like we don't have one-to-one tools as we have in like real life programming and stuff like that. So you're never going to get like a one-to-one with like a picture that you're like trying to recreate in The Sims, which I feel like is cool because then you end up with something unique for your own home. So this home specifically had like three different stories, as it was kind of based on like a mountain. Whereas like you can't really create that in The Sims. Because of limitations like that, you just end up creating a home that is relatively unique, which is kind of cool because like, you know, you create something that doesn't really exist. I raised the home on a platform because I just felt like it just made the house like a bit more, it just made it stand out a little bit more. And I did want to add like specific like parts of the home that was like coming out. So I wanted like a front porch. I wanted like a little bit of a back porch as well, but you'll see like most of the back garden is actually raised on a terrain because I didn't want to use like a lot of stairs. I just wanted it in like the front of the home or like at the sides of the home where there was like side doors and stuff, but I didn't want like the platform to like take over too much of the build, if that makes sense. And this home also has like its own like seating area at the front of the home, which is kind of unique to like what I do in most of my builds because I build like relatively close to like the front of the lot, so I don't really have a lot of space to create like a lot of like seating area or like furniture at like the front of the homes and stuff. But yeah, I just feel like this turned out like amazing, and as you guys can see, the pebbles that I was placing around like the edges of the home rather than dirt, I just feel like I love this design a lot more. And as I was saying, I wish that we had different colors as well because I would have loved to incorporate different stone pebble designs throughout like the entire area of this house rather than just black. But I just feel like the black also works amazingly well with this home. I'm just really proud of how it turned out, to be honest. I also went with like a very simple black roofing, as I was kind of like struggling. If you guys didn't see earlier, I didn't know what kind of black roof to pick because all of them were like super dark, just wasn't looking great. And I was going to use like the specific tiled ones that came with like base game or whatever. It doesn't even matter what pack it comes from, but I was just trying to use a simple black roofing tile, but it just wasn't working out because it was just looking way too dark. So I used this one that was like extremely flat, and this is one of my favorite roof textures because I used it in my Kim Kardashian mansion as I was building her house. If you guys didn't watch that, I highly suggest you check that out because I feel like that build was turned out amazing. But yeah, I used the same roofing texture as I did while building that house, and it just works really well, to be honest. Like whenever in doubt, just use that roofing texture because yeah, it always comes in handy. Like the black swatch for this roofing was very like not muted, but like it's very simple and it doesn't look too dark. So yeah, it doesn't, you know, take all of the attention off of the home while also keeping it within that minimalistic design, which is what I like. As we're creating the back garden of this home, I also incorporated like a nice little like camp fireplace thingy here, and I really wanted this home to like have a big emphasis on family, so I did incorporate like a few activities and stuff like that to make this home have a bit more of a purpose for family homes. So we have the tree house, as well as a few toddler rooms, as well as like monkey bars and like a small little playground next to the tree house that like, you know, kids can like utilize and stuff. And yeah, I didn't really hold back with designing this home, to be honest. Like I tried to incorporate as much as I could have. And if you guys saw like earlier, I was building the garage, and I I left that place blank like most of the build because I went back at the end and I just incorporated like a bunch of different like tables, like work tables, such as like the flower table, the gemology table, as well as like a few other skill building activity tables because I didn't want to leave it empty. Although it's not functional, I still want it to be usable by your Sims. I'd rather like utilize that room as something else because I feel like a lot of Simmers, when they create builds, they, instead of having like a garage room, they just make like a room dedicated to like skill building activities, which is exactly what I did. But from the exterior, it looks like a garage, whereas from the interior, it's literally not a garage at all. But yeah, I hope you guys like that, and you guys can let me know what you think about that because I do always do that with like empty spaces in my garages because I don't really furnishing it as if it's like a garage because unless you're like storytelling and you're going to showcase that location as a garage. I just feel like it's more useful for like gameplay to incorporate skill building items, which would be a lot more useful. Surprisingly, we have 2 campfires in this home, which is 2 more than any other campfire that I placed in my recent builds. We need to utilize more unique furniture pieces and like items in my builds. I placed a lot of like grass pieces within the pebbles, which I feel like looked really nice, really adds to like the simplicity of the home in my opinion. Moving on to the interior, I did not show myself like creating the floor plan, adding onto the walls or anything like that, because it was honestly taking such a long time. And despite me not utilizing a lot of the space, the home is still relatively huge and still has like what, like 5 or 6 bedrooms, as well as like most of them having like their own ensuite and stuff. It's surprising that I was able to incorporate that into this build, to be honest, because the build, although it's huge, I didn't really utilize a lot of like the upstairs. Most of the upstairs is on the right hand side of the home, so like the left hand side is all like flat and it's only like 1 story. But yeah, I just utilized the space as much as I could while still making it simple and sticking to the style that I wanted. Once again, we are using a lot of Dream Home Decorator furniture pieces within this build, but I just feel like it resonates really well with the simplicity style that I was going for, like the Scandinavian style, which resonates with like a lot of like minimalistic like pieces in the home. So yeah, you guys can let me know what you think about that, but I did want to like make it seem like a very mutual and like simple home. I was really just able to like execute that design with the Dream Home Decorator objects, to be honest, which I honestly don't know what I would do without the Dream Home Decorator pack, because that one is just like so helpful when it comes to just adding decoration, any type of decoration. I have most of it, so I feel like Dream Home Decorator is definitely a necessity when it comes to building, or even like downloading other people's builds from the gallery, because everyone pretty much uses Dream Home Decorator, even if it's not like a clutter kit. It's just like so important to have in your game, as you know, like most of the furniture pieces are from that pack. And this home had like its own specific dining table that looked over out to the garden through like these huge glass windows. And yeah, like I took some amazing screenshots of this build as well. Stay tuned towards the end of the build, because I feel like you guys will definitely enjoy looking at those screenshots at the end of this video, because they look really good for some reason. I went into play mode and I was testing this build out. I just took like a bunch of different pictures while playing the game, just to like get like a better lighting. I just feel like you guys would definitely appreciate the screenshots at the end of this build. But yeah, we're just cluttering up simple public bathrooms on the first floor, which honestly is nothing special. It's not like a huge bathroom or anything. Ideally, this was going to be an ensuite to this bedroom, but I just ended up with creating this like as like a standalone bathroom, because I didn't want it to be, not every single room, like I mentioned before, has an ensuite, which I feel like is totally fine, to be honest. Like, just because your home is that big doesn't really have to have its own ensuite. I do also skip a few minutes of me decorating and furnishing the build, because it honestly was just taking such a long time. And yeah, I just wanted to create like a simple video, you know. I don't want you guys to be like bored watching me decorate for too long, so I do skip it where it's like not really necessary, but I do also like keep most of it in, as you guys can see here, like me incorporating some of the furnishing. I did also like add a different like color style or scheme throughout every single room, just to like, you know, change it up a bit and not make everything the same. Although most of the furniture does come from Dream Home Decorator, I did make sure to use different types of furniture from that pack. Most of the beds are different, but they're from the same pack. By using the same pack over and over, it just makes it easier for people to download your builds without, you know, a lot of things being missing, which is kind of funny, because like I did use a bunch of different textures and wallpapers from different packs for the exterior of this build, but I feel like most of it is from base games, such as like the wooden paneling. I'm just like being a bit more cautious about like what I use and like how I use it and where I use it, just so like when people download it, there's not like a big empty wall, you know, if that makes sense, which, you know, is obviously not nice to see. We have a master bedroom, as at least like that's what I would call it, on the first floor, as this one had like its own walk-in closet as well as its own ensuite. And I just feel like the bathtub was like in a very nice position in those double square cornered windows of this build, and I feel like turned out amazing. And ideally it would be something that I would love to like live in, because it just looks really nice and simple, to be honest. Like, it's like exactly my style, in the sense that it's very like modern and simplistic. I didn't really like clutter it up like too much or add like too much to it. And yeah, I've recently been putting these like towels on like the poof stools recently next to like the bathtub, which Honestly, like I don't know where I saw that from. I think I saw it from a few pictures on Pinterest, but yeah, I've been doing that quite a lot recently. It's just like another way to like really add clutter into your bathrooms, to be honest. Once again, like I'm just using the Dream Home Decorator kitchen cabinets, like the wall cabinets, as bedroom side tables because I just feel like they are like the perfect size and they always work well next to like modern beds. And I did use this like very fancy bed for this bedroom because I just wanted it to stand out as if it was like a master bedroom. So yeah, I feel like that was the way I was able to like make it obvious to players that that would be like the master bedroom, to be honest, because like every other bedroom doesn't really have its own closet and bathroom, and that does not necessarily mean that it's not a master bedroom if it doesn't have those features. Ideally that is what would be classed as the master bedroom, if that makes sense. As I mentioned before, like I did skip like most of the floor plan design and stuff because it was just taking such a long time to make something that was going to look very nice. And I feel like the home has a very sophisticated and smooth looking like floor plans. I feel like the playability in this home is like very good. I just made sure that like everything worked properly. But yeah, I feel like the floor plan of this home is like great in the sense that it flows really well. Every room is like reasonably sized, and yeah, I just feel like it has a really good like workflow, if that makes sense. I just went with like some very nice simple railing from Horse Ranch for the stairs, which honestly I use in like most of my modern builds now recently because it just looks the most up to date, if that makes sense. And it kind of makes sense as that's like one of the most recent expansion packs, just like going around decorating every single like bedroom in this build. And you can see like throughout the video there are some rooms in this build that I haven't showed in the recording because it was just taking such a long time to furnish and stuff, such as like the bathrooms. And I just feel like watching a speed build of me, you know, like filling up a bathroom is not really that interesting as most of them are pretty much the same. This home does also come with a kids teen room, if you want to call it that, which comes with like two single beds. And I did this because I just feel like it works well with like a family home. And realistically, like if you wanted like a nursery, you can easily incorporate that into the master bedroom in like one of the corners, as that bedroom was relatively huge. So yeah, I feel like players wouldn't have worry with like moving stuff around. And yeah, this can easily be turned into a toddler's room or like a teen's room eventually as they grow older. And with the amount of bedrooms we have in this build, I'm sure it will be able to, you know, accompany like as many Sims as you would really want, to be honest. And I feel like very easily expandable. You can easily add like a bunch of different rooms and stuff to this build, and I feel like it would still turn out pretty good. As well as like on the flat roof pieces that we have towards like the back side of the home, which I feel like, you know, you shouldn't really have an issue with like extending this home. But yeah, this is one of the last few bedrooms that is on the top floor, and I went with like this emerald green color because, as I was mentioning, like I wanted to like explore with like creating different unique colors for every single bedroom, as it just like makes it a bit more interesting and dynamic. And you wouldn't really want to get confused with like what bedroom you're in as you're playing, because I know that is kind of like a common issue that simmers would have if every single bedroom looked the same. So yeah, I just like changed it up a little bit here and there, always making sure to use different bedside tables and wall pieces and textures, as well as wall accents, which is very heavily utilized in this build. I did make sure to like use it in like a lot of this build. And I just feel like accent walls really just make the build look a bit more interesting rather than having four walls that are all the same boring color, if that makes sense. But yeah, we seem to be coming towards the end of this speed build. As you guys can see, I'm just like adding a few more details here and there. But yeah, if you guys like this build, let me know by leaving a like and subscribing. I have a bunch more speed builds on the channel if you guys like these kind of things. And I also created a Patreon where I'll be uploading most of my tray files for most of my speed builds. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.